Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The New York Giants have traded Leonard Williams to the Seattle Seahawks, and in return, the Giants receive a 2024 second-round pick and a 2025 fifth-round pick. This is a steal for the Giants. Look, Leonard Williams is still, he's been around since 2015, spent his first 4+ seasons with the New York Jets, and then the Giants traded for him in 2019. Leonard Williams is still a very good player, but he was going to be a free agent at the end of the season. The Giants are eating most of the $10 million on his contract, but to get this sort of return, I never would have expected that at all. To land a second-round pick, granted it'll be probably more of the late variety, mid to late second, because the Seahawks are, to this point, having a pretty good season. They're 5-2 currently. Doesn't mean that it's going to, end up that way. But for them to get that is just great. Plus, you get a fifth-round pick, which isn't nothing in 2025. And it's just funny that Dave Gettleman traded for Leonard Williams in a trade that I didn't like it. He was going to be a free agent at the end of the season. And the Giants traded away a third and fifth-round pick. So it's just kind of interesting. Now, again, I know that there's, contract implications here. But the fact that 4 years later, 4 years older, Leonard Williams is actually worth more in value. So the Giants actually received more than they traded away, which I never would have thought that would have happened. So he rejoins former teammates, Julian Love, who, of course, he was teammates with the Giants, the last 4 or so seasons. And then before that, with the Jets, Jamal Adams. So Leonard Williams will have some familiar friends with him in Seattle, and he'll be returning back west, where, obviously he spent, what has it been, a 9-year career? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 years, all in New York with the Jets and Giants, but he is a California boy, and he, went to USC, so obviously not California, but going back to the West Coast for Leonard Williams, and we'll see what happens. He'll be a free agent at the end of the season. It was very apparent that he wasn't going to be a Giant. There would have already been an extension in place. It wasn't going to happen. And so it's interesting. The Giants lose yesterday. If they had won, do they not make this trade? I think regardless you make this trade, even if they win or lose, it's just the value's too good. The Giants have too many holes. And who knows, that second round pick, that could be used in a trade up, possibility. If the Giants do want to get a quarterback, let's say that happens, and they want to trade up to do it, you now have an extra asset to do so. So Joe Schoen, I think his drafting, that remains to be seen. As far as that is concerned, in his 2 seasons as Giant general manager, not really too sure how that's going to go. However, his trades, I think, have been pretty good. I really do. And so hoping that this is another good one. Again, there's not much downside. Leonard Williams was not going to be back. And I thought that contract was going to be one that would inhibit or prohibit the Giants from actually being able to trade him. I thought and still think that Adoree Jackson, who's going to be a free agent in the season, I think that is someone who will be traded. So I don't expect this to be the last trade. This will be the biggest one though. This will provide the biggest return. So let's talk a little bit about Leonard Williams and, him as a Giant. So Williams, again, it's not his fault, but I never really warmed up to him based on the fact that I just didn't think it was a smart trade. Again, that was a Giant team that the 2019 Giants were not good. They had a bad record. So to be in buy mode didn't make sense. But because Gettleman makes this trade with the Jets, it was like he had to bring Leonard Williams back. And so the Giants placed the franchise tag on Leonard Williams 2 seasons in a row. In 2020, they gave him the franchise tag. And then again in 2021, before they signed him to a 3-year, $63 million deal, $45 million guaranteed. So I always felt like Leonard Williams, as good as he is, and probably underappreciated by Giant fans, I always felt like he was overpaid. I just felt that way. And as far as this, what it means now, before I go back, as far as Leonard Williams' previous seasons, A'Shawn Robinson and Rakeem Nunez-Roches, acquisitions that were made in the offseason, they will kind of fill that role. So obviously Dexter Lawrence, will still be there in the middle of that defense. And next to him will, again, be either a Robinson, a Nunez Roches. But, you'll probably see a little bit more of Jordan Riley, maybe DJ Davidson. So it'll give more players an opportunity. But it is a clear signal that, that the Giants are in sell mode, as they should be. This is, no sense in holding on to guys when, in reality, this season is not really going to go where this front office and where this team was probably hoping for. So the Giants acquired Leonard Williams in 2019 and, 4 years later, traded at the trade deadline again. And Williams in 19 wasn't really, again, that was a bad Giant team. That was the Pat Shurmur, James Bettcher era. And he had a half sack. And I'm pretty sure I remember it was in the last game of the season. It was the last game. He finally got a half sack. He had played 8 games. But yeah, there was definitely like an acclimation. I don't know. I felt like at that time, Leonard Williams was declining. Like early in his Jet career, he was good. He made the Pro Bowl in 2016. This was like someone that was doing well. And I feel like as his Jet career, progressed, he certainly wasn't taking a step up. But then 2020 rolls around, and Leonard Williams, that was his best season as a Giant. So now you got Joe Judge, you got Patrick Graham as a defensive coordinator, and Leonard Williams, who was mostly very durable. Leonard Williams, 11 and a half sacks. And it's funny, I think Leonard Williams' best game that I remember was against the Seahawks. That year, that was the game where Colt McCoy was the quarterback, and the Giants go into Seattle. Now, this was the COVID season, and they beat the Seahawks. And the Giants at that point were kind of they got off to a bad start, and in a bad NFC East, they had a chance to maybe win the division. And Leonard Williams he sacked Russell Wilson, 2.5 sacks. He won NFC Defensive Player of the Week that week. And then the last week of the season against the Cowboys, won the Defensive Player of the Week again in the NFC, as he recorded 3 sacks against Andy Dalton in a game that was important. We know how that went down. The Giants beat the Cowboys, then the Eagles basically purposely lost to Washington. But either way, Leonard Williams was great that year. And so that leads to him getting this contract in 2021. 2021 was a rough season for the Giants. For Leonard Williams, a bit of a step back. Still 6.5 sacks. Still productive. And I remember he was playing through injuries, but he played each game. He played all 17 games. I think he had like an elbow thing, but he was fine. Last season, he sprained his MCL in week 2 against the Carolina Panthers, so he missed some time. He ended up missing on the whole about 5 games. Now, I think part of that also was like that last game versus, he was kind of in and out. But, for Leonard Williams last year, only 2.5 sacks. Not that sacks is like Leonard Williams' game. That's why the 11.5 was extremely impressive when he got it. But Leonard Williams, always grades out pretty well. Good against the run, gets pressures on the quarterback. And so now we fast forward to this season. And, for Leonard Williams, I feel like he's been coming on more lately. Yesterday, he was pretty good against the Jets. I feel like he's been steadily improving on the year. The stats aren't overly impressive. But again, it's hard to judge that. So Leonard Williams, who was nothing but a stand-up guy, what was one of the Giant captains. Giants have many of them. And, wish him well with Seattle. But very happy that he was able to help get us, as Giant fans, back this draft compensation. Again, 2024 second-round pick, 2025 fifth-round pick. And in part, the reason why that happened is because the Giants are eating most of the remaining $10 million on his contract. I am sure that this won't be the last trade the Giants make. I will be here to discuss any future trades the Giants make with this trade deadline, but I'm very happy that Joe Schoen is in sell mode.